Welcome to the Cult of De-Evolution. So, this is a 5-part story. So, if you're starting here, you're in the right place. This docu-series will be covering the first EP. And with our first song, which is an intro, completely instrumental, no vocals, called Messiah. Now, this instrumental doesn't mean much, but it's supposed to set the mood for the rest of the EP. And what the rest of the EP revolves around is the Cult of De-Evolution. De-evolution is a philosophy by a demon or god, you get to decide, called Trisch. Trisch is very nihilistic. It's Leon. He believes that there is no meaning, and he is an outcast from the rest of the gods. There is no meaning in life, humanity will amount to nothing, and humanity means nothing. He's very pessimistic, and he's not a good person. You're not supposed to see him in a good light. And throughout this EP, we will explore his belief and how he passes it on to humanity and how he gets power in this cult. Trisch, basically, this EP, Trisch is convincing humanity to join his cult. And I'm not going to call it a religion, it is a cult. And you will see that throughout these songs. Trisch is very much an exploitive and manipulative god or demon. And throughout the rest of this EP/docu series, we will be talking about what makes this cult a cult and why all this is happening. But the basics you need to know is that Trisch is a main player, Lurch is a priest, and those are the main two that will be speaking throughout this EP. So, welcome. Start here, and I will tell you in the other docu-series that you should start here. And if you are seeing this on your feed, I would welcome you to listen to the EP. And yeah, this is the beginning of De-Evolution. Welcome. If you're seeing this and you want to hear about the story of the phases of de-evolution, I suggest you begin from the beginning of this docu-series and not go out of order. It is very much a story that should be listened to in order. So please, go back, listen to the first one so you have an understanding. You'll be very lost. You won't be able to de-evolve with us. So, in the Awakening of De-Evolution, we start by seeing our priest, Lurch. Lurch is commencing a ritual, and he's getting his followers to join him in it. This is kind of showing off the belief. They are very ritualistic. They are based around this cult. This cult controls them, and this cult has full access to their lives. They're making a sacrifice to Trisch, and Trisch is asking them to do this, which is not said in the song. Lurch gets everyone together, and he basically starts instilling
the ideas of a cult.
Lurch gets everyone together, and he basically starts instilling the ideas of a cult. The fact that you are worth nothing, you are part of an entity, all of these things. And this is the beginning of the cult. This is them coming together in this ritual, which will then lead us to the next song and further issues within this EP. Welcome to the third part in the series. If you are seeing this, please go watch the other parts. Start from the first song onwards. This is a 5-part EP, and this is a docu-series going over each song. So in this song, The Plague of Consciousness, we see the main value that Trisch really wants to employ in this cult. And Lurch preaches this. The plague of consciousness. What does that mean? Well, the plague of consciousness is this idea that Trisch has, that your conscious is a plague and must be got rid of. You cannot think for yourself. And throughout this story, we will see Trisch instilling this idea of you're worthless, you're meaningless, and you cannot think for yourself. You're not to think for yourself. That is one of the major things he instills in this cult. And this song goes in depth about it. We also see how they ritualistically will hurt themselves
and make payments in blood,
as seen on my poster here, to this cult. Not only do they make payments in blood, but they are very much protective of Trisch. Trisch is instilling these ideas in them, and they will further evolve as the story goes on. Thank you for watching. Please watch the other parts if you haven't. And yeah, we'll continue on. Welcome to the 6-part docuseries about a 5-part story I wrote. They're told in 6-song EPs. And if this is the first video you're seeing, please go to my channel, go to the playlist, and watch from the beginning. This is the 4th song, Beginning of Devolution. This is a spiritual successor to the Awakening to Devolution. Not only is Trisch fully have control of his cult, but he is openly disregarding any independence they might have. Their religion, any other beliefs they have, he wants to get rid of. Insulting the other religions. He insults Christ in this they have, he wants to get rid of. Independence is not an option within this cult. And he starts to do that by insulting the other religions. He insults Christ in the song, which is the major religion he does not like. And we'll find out later why. But it's a spiritual successor to the Awakening. They're like gathering in de-evolution, because not only are they gathered in ritual, but they are also openly sacrificing, bleeding, and anyone who disagrees with them will be killed. This will happen later within the story multiple times. But they are openly giving into this depravity that Trisch wants them to fall into. They are de-evolving. Hence why this is the beginning of de-evolution. Hi, welcome to the 6-part docu-series about a cult and de-evolution. This is a 5-part story with 6-song EPs. If you're starting here on the docu-series, please go to my channel and go watch the first part all the way up to this part, or you will be very lost. Nolan Void is another spiritual successor to the beginning of de-evolution. Not only do we see Trisch openly telling his followers that independence is not allowed, but he even calls it null and void. He erases any sense of self they have. Everything they are and everything they will ever be must be approved by him and must be within the cult. Not only is Trisch saying this, but he's bragging about it. He's openly making fun of the idea of them being independent. And this is really showing the character of Trisch. Not only is Trisch a malevolent deity, but he does not give a damn about any of his followers. And his followers are just pawns in a bigger game, which will be explored later within the series. Welcome to the last part of this docu-series. If you have not watched the rest of the docu-series, please go to my channel, go to the playlist, and watch the rest of it. You will be very lost if you don't. Welcome to the last song of the first part, the 6th song, The New Dawn. Not only has Trisch fully grown a following, but now Lurch is expelling their ideas. This entire song is a ploy for people to join the religion. It seems cute at first, not cute, but seems very melodic and beautiful at first, but eventually devolves into something heavy. He goes from singing calmly to screaming these ideas into the heads of the followers. And this is encapsulated by the lyric, humanity is only a subconscious thought.
Humanity is only a subconscious thought.
This, if there was one line to describe this entire first part, that would be it. That is what Trisch is trying to get at. Humanity is a subconscious thought. Never more, never less, deserving of nothing. And this EP is a ploy for people to join the cult. This song is basically a recruitment song. It's long, it's long, it's long, it's long, it's harrowing. If you don't realize what it's about, it's very much in your face and it wants you to join the cult. And this is where we will leave off for the first part. In summary, Trisch has gotten a huge following. Lurch is preaching the ideas of Trisch, and all that's left to do is de-evolve. Hi, welcome to Explaining Devolution. So, we were talking about the Deluxe Edition of the first phase. A lot of times with the Deluxe Editions, well, not a lot of times, but all the times, they will be more of side stories or kind of characterization. They're not really important to the main story, but they do have some little things that can teach us more about Trisch and his cult. This song in particular, Anthropogenic Assertion, is introducing a hymn that will become very popular and very much a important factor and detail in this story, but more in later parts. This is just our introduction to it. This is when we're first introduced to the actual hymn. In this little deluxe edition, we end where the original edition came off, and these three songs kind of explain more about our frivolous god here, our god or demon, depending on how you look at him, and it's going to explain more about how he is. Characterization. So stay tuned. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go on my channel, find the playlist with lyrical analysis. You'll understand the first EP. You probably should, because this isn't going to make a lot of sense without it. And have a good day. Look forward to seeing you in the next one. Hello, and welcome to Explaining Devolution. This song, Murder Sermon, is actually kind of the more important song on these additional three, because this is kind of telling us about their sermons, about the cult's kind of rituals that they perform. And these rituals are called murder sermons. This term isn't used a lot throughout the series, but that is what they call them, murder sermons. So this kind of shows us how malevolent our God is in this song, because Trisch talks through most of it. This is kind of showing how sadistic he is. He does not have the best intentions for his cult. He does not see them as equals. He sees them as worshippers, as people that he can use and abuse. And that's really what it comes down to. So this song is kind of them performing a murder sermon, and we kind of get to see how malevolent this god really is. Hello, and welcome to Explaining Devolution. This is for the 9th song, the final song on the deluxe edition of the first phase of Devolution. This song is called Outcast. And although this doesn't have much to do with the cult itself, we learn a lot about Trisch here. Trisch was once in heaven and hell, but he was outcasted for his ideas. Obviously, he wasn't liked by his contemporaries, and this kind of gives us his motivation behind this cult. So this adds another layer of, it's not just, a cult because he's sadistic, but he has something to prove. He has something he feels like he has to prove. And this is kind of what we're going to explore more in the next part of this series, the second phase of Devolution. We're kind of going to see him trying to prove something, trying to prove who he is. And obviously, she does not like that. I use different pronouns because technically Trisch isn't any gender, but he's all genders at once. But he is a malevolent god, which we've established so far. And this is him kind of explaining to us why he is doing this. Why is he an outcast? Why is he making this cult? And this motive will kind of reveal itself in the coming parts, so stay tuned.